Our memory to listen to what the president said while he was in Sagana. There is some time last week, I believe it was on Thursday. He was speaking about several matters, including explaining why he fell out with Deputy President William Ruto, and also calling out some churches, saying that they've been receiving resources that would have been proceeds of crime, or what you may call economic crime, but there has been a lot of contestation. So let's listen to what he said about some money that was meant for construction.
Wanatuambia ya kwamba chama chetu kilikuwa kimekufa, twagojea tu siku ya mazishi. Haya, ni chama gani ambaye ni maiti, ambaye imeinua uchumi wa serikali ama wa nchi ya Kenya kutoka trilioni 5 mpaka sasa leo trilioni 11? Ni chama gani hiyo ambaye ni maiti gani inaweza kufanya kazi hiyo? Watuambie.
Well, that is not from Sagana, rather it's from the Jubilee Party NDC. I would want us to listen to that clip when he was speaking about that situation in Sagana. But as we look for it, Honorable Gachagua, how do you make of these submissions that the president made while in Sagana, including claiming that some of the resources that may have been shared by some leaders in the DP Ruto camp with churches may have been proceeds of crime?
Well, thank you very much. I didn't attend Sagana because I was not invited. Sagana State Lodge is 800 meters from my home. My workers were listening to the speeches from there. Had I been invited, would I have gone? No. One, Sagana is never a meeting. It's a monologue. You know, the president came and spoke throughout, never gave anybody a chance to say anything. He just says what he wants to say and leaves. We had waited with bated breath for Sagana, and some of us who don't even follow his speeches anymore were on the TV listening. He had said that he's coming to spill the beans. He would come and explain to why he has discarded his deputy president, why he's so harsh to him, why he has brutalized him and all the people around him, why he has kicked him out of government. And people are very expectant because they would like to know, you know, how a man who has assisted you to be elected 4 times, he has voted for you, and you are so ruthless to him. People wanted to know. He didn't say anything new that he has not said. He said money was stolen from the dams, and this money has been given to the church. And as far as I know, he was targeting the deputy president. The deputy president has not been arrested and charged with the theft of funds from that dam. The director of public prosecution, Nurdin Haj, is on record. There are clips that the deputy president had nothing to do with it. The president is the head of state and head of government. He cannot just be complaining to the public about theft. He needs to take action. People would have expected him, if he wanted to come to meet his tribesmen about theft, to talk about the real theft in this country. They would have expected him, when especially he's in Nyeri, to talk about the grabbing of Mau land. They would have expected him to explain about theft of COVID funds and go further and explain whether the people who stole the COVID funds, who are his friends and around him, have taken this money to the church. They would have expected him to explain. He said that 2 billion shillings is lost daily. They would have expected him to explain who stole that money and whether it has ended up in a church. But he shot himself with the foot. Let me tell you, the rebellion in central Kenya is on another level. The church is up in arms. You know, Sam, you can attack people. You can brutalize people. You can talk evil things about other people. You don't touch anointed men and women of God. Those church leaders he was attacking and saying they'll go to hell. To start with, Uhuru Kenyatta, my president, is a human being. He cannot arrogate himself the role of judging others who will go to hell and who will go to heaven. That role is left to Almighty God, who will judge you on the judgment day and decide whether you go to heaven or you go to hell. And you know, Sam, you cannot judge people when they are alive. People are judged by God when they leave this world because they have an opportunity before they die to repent and be forgiven. So it was very, very uncharacteristic of him because he is a very religious man. He's a Catholic. We have never had him attack the church before in the manner he did, and the church is not amused. Okay. All the sermons yesterday were on him in the entire region. And they told him off, and they told him, don't arrogate yourself the role of God. You are not God, you are just a human being. You cannot say people will go to hell. None of you, even if you are president, has that. And you know, Sam, why people are very unhappy. When the president had challenges at the ICC, he went to these same church leaders, knelt before God, they prayed for him, and God gave him favor, and he was acquitted. These same church leaders are the people now that he doesn't need them, that he's attacking without and you know, the attack is unprovoked. And
Honorable Gachagua, let's listen to the clip so that I can circulate the question to the rest of the panelists to just get a feel of what he said. He spoke in Kikuyu, but we'll have the subtitles to translate what he was saying.
Woka haha na bese ioraria ne bese ciagĩrĩirwo nĩ gũtwarĩra andũ a Elgeyo Marakwet damu bilioni 3 nĩgetha ciana cia Ngai inyue maĩ, nĩgetha ciana cia Ngai ihote kũrĩma, nĩguo ciekĩrwo mũhuko wa mũndũ woka koroga makanitha atĩ nĩ ndakũnengera milioni 2 ũke haha tũinagĩre haleluya. Oya mbeca ciama kama woĩ igana rĩakwa thithinĩire handũ ha milioni iyĩtwo, handũ ha milioni ĩtigathinĩtie mũndũ na haki yake ya maica bũrũri ũyũ. Tutiga kwaranĩria maheni.
And Honorable Wanga, I mean, I don't know what to make of that Sagana 3 event and the sentiments that the president was sharing there. But one wonders if indeed the people that he's saying were involved in stealing resources that are meant for construction of dams in Elgeyo Marakwet, if indeed that is true, people have been asking the question, why didn't he take any action to stop that theft or even to prosecute them?
I think this matter of, thank you Sam, and good morning to all our viewers. The matter of corruption generally within the government is a matter that the president has stepped up on, and coming specifically to the issue of Aurora and Kimorer dams. You remember when it was said by the DCI that money has been lost in the Aurora and Kimorer dams. The deputy president woke up, nobody asked him about it, and he woke up and said, no, it is not 21 billion that is lost. It is only 7 billion that is lost. And Kenyans ask themselves, okay, so the president, the deputy president calls 7 billion only. And then he goes ahead to say that only 7 billion has been lost. And you remember that the DPP and the DCI went ahead to charge Henry Rotich and the former PS for National Treasury. What happened from the Tanga group is they all came up in arms. They attacked the DCI especially. They attacked the DPP. There was a big attack, if you remember, and if you bring up the clips at that time, there was a big attack on these institutions. They were demeaned. They were said they were following only political, pathways and so on and so forth. And so it cannot be said that the president hasn't moved in terms of taking action on the people who are responsible for Aurora and Kimorer. But coming back to what the president was saying, and I know that Rigathi and his team want to make it look like the president was attacking the church. What the president said is you would rather accept a small amount of money if it is given from the heart and from hard work, sweat, than to accept huge sums of money that could possibly, whose sources are possibly questionable. And that's a big debate that we must have as a country. Because if you are an individual whose salary we know, because when you're a public servant, we know your salary. We know the salary of the deputy president is so much money in a month. But we see him moving around the country, spending even up to 100 million shillings in a month in donations. They want to make us believe that this money is his money from his pocket out of his good deeds. And this is what the president was questioning. And this is why the president was saying in general terms. And there was no, specific attack on specific people or specific churches. What he said is that what we need to look at as a church, as a nation, we need to reflect on whether we should just accept 100 million from somebody whose salary we know is 2 million shillings a month. Can you sit down and ask yourself, if this guy earns 2 or 3 million shillings or even 5 million, how is he affording to donate up to 100 million shillings in a month in the form of being, being generous? Secondly, on the issue of the church,
you counted up to 100 million in a month.
It could go up to 100 million in a month. I mean, look, you go here, you say, I've given you 10 million. There are churches, I mean, I know, and there are places, and there are schools, and there are donations. The deputy president, if you add it up, comes to almost 100 million a month. We must ask ourselves, where is this money coming from? But I want to come to a second issue, on the issue of the church. The church of this country have been an integral part in terms of the changes that we have witnessed in this country over the years. The church has played a key role. And the church, as we speak to them, is looking at, the church is not only about donations. And if you want to just, make the church about donations, then you're missing the point. The church wants to play a role in restoring the social fabric of the nation. The church has issues. The church is saying, okay, we have schools. We have institutions, we have hospitals that do not have title deeds. Let's have a conversation around how we strengthen the church from that perspective. The church is, when you make the church only about donations, it's trivializing the church and the role of the church and the great role that this church has played in this republic. Also, you cannot, the way, the deputy president and his team has made everybody else look like, because we are not making millions and millions in donations because we don't have stolen money, they've made it look like the rest of the people are not church, do not fear God. They have come and even owned God and said they're the only ones who know,
Is that so? How so?
Because they keep on saying, this one is a mganga, this one doesn't go to church, we are the ones who know, sisi ni watu na Mungu, sisi ni watu na hii, as if the rest of the people are not God's people. We are all God's children. We are a God-fearing nation. All our leaders, including President Uhuru Kenyatta, is a God-fearing leader. Raila Odinga is a God-fearing leader. Only that we do not have access to stolen money that we can be giving in huge millions every month.
Oh, okay, I want us to listen to what some leaders from the Kenya Kwanza movement said. I believe they were in Nyeri. Listen.
Tafadhali na waomba kwa unyenyekevu, hata kama hamupendi kutoa sadaka, hata kama hamupendi kujenga kanisa, tafadhali wachana na viongozi wa kanisa na wachana na kukera na kukashifu kanisa la Mungu. Mtuheshimu na mtusamehe, kwa sababu Biblia hatujaanza kubeba jana. Tumekuwa tukibeba Biblia miaka nyingi bwana. Ni kwa sababu ya hiyo Biblia ndio tumefika mahali tuliko sasa. Na ni kwa sababu ya hiyo Biblia ndio tutafika mahali tunaenda.
Tunaomba heshima kwa kanisa. Tunaomba heshima kwa viongozi wa kanisa. Kwa sababu sisi tumefikishwa hapa na maombi, si ndio?
And so, Honorable Mbui, listening to all this conversation, it appears, I mean, it's the election year, yes, but how integral is the church in campaigning, whether it's in central Kenya or it's in Ukambani or even across the country, and what role do these donations play in appealing to the emotions and the interest of citizens across the country?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. The church is obviously part of our community and plays a really important part in the issue of making sure that we set our people on the right path of morality and decency, and really cannot be ignored. But what I have noted in the whole of this conversation is a kind of spinning that some of our political leaders do. The president wasn't wrong. I think the president was right when he talked about what he said, because it is also in the Bible. I mean, there is a part in the Bible where somebody donated a small amount, but that was the only thing they had. And I think it was clear from that narrative that this person, their small donation was more acceptable to God than even huge donations that were coming from not within the heart. So I think it's a biblical concept. And I think the president was right that let us not trivialize and use the church for political gain. Because if you go to the church and give them money, a lot of money, the more money you give, then the more favor you expect to get from the church. Really, I think that's wrong. I think the church leaders also need to be told that they have a moral obligation to ensure that what we put in this country is decency first. And the idea of money in church should not be overemphasized as we have noticed. In fact, I would say this, that some of our churches, and somebody will say I'm castigating the churches, but the fact is this: if you look at the harambes held in churches throughout 5 years, you will notice very heightened number of harambes during the campaign year. Clearly, that means that there are some church leaders who target political leaders for purposes of raising money to build their churches. And I think that if I was a church leader, I would be interested in building my church from my congregation, because then God has blessed your congregation to be able to support its own church. But when we go to political leaders where they can be ones that build the church, we kind of miss the point, in my opinion. So I think I would like to urge that church leaders do what the president said. Let them do their bit and allow political leaders also do their bit, and not combine the two.
Okay.
I have seen situations where people go to church and they endorse you. You go to a church and they endorse you. And the church leader tells the people, okay, this is a person we are supporting. Can you show by a show of hands? They all lift their hands. The next weekend, another opponent goes there. And they want the same person also to be endorsed. And they say, hata huyu tunaona, he's capable. And again, the same people lift their hands. So people are forced to or made to lie in churches. So I think politics should be kept out of church. And I think that's what the president was really leading towards. But let me...
Have you witnessed these sort of donations within your constituency? Or
yes, they are all over.
By who?
I will tell you this, that in fact I have about 4 or 5 churches in my constituency that were pushing for the deputy president to come. When they heard he's giving 5 million, he's giving 10 million. I mean, I'm telling you the reality. The church was on a frenzy when they realized there's somebody who's giving huge donations. And that's a part we are uncomfortable about, because I was saying, look, why don't you accept us to come and give our 5,000 as opposed to that money that, as the president said, you're not too sure about? How would you teach morality as a church? And at the same time, you're the ones that are accepting money, and you know very well that this money has been talked about. So I think the president was right. I think we cannot. I think we cannot second guess him. But allow me to respond to an issue that Honorable Rigathi raised here. And I think he's being very economical with the truth. When you asked him who is now the leader, that the deputy president has gone, I can tell you here that the current leader is Moses Masika Wetangula. And this is a fact. You noticed that when Musalia and Wetangula joined the UDA brigade, suddenly they were given, special seats and they became principals. So suddenly that party had 3 principals. 2 principals have gone. Only 1 principal remains behind. So those are the people. Those 3 are the ones that are playing at that league that Rigathi wants to say is also playing at. He is not at that level. It is Masika Wetangula who is now leading this brigade. But I noticed that trip and the people who went, and some allow me to say that there are some people from Lower Eastern that play a big role in the UDA party. We have the chairman who is my former senator, Mudhama. We also have about 2 or 3 members of parliament that have been singing the song of Hustler Nation in our region. I was surprised that when now they are going to discuss foreign policy and major issues of concerning Kenya, none of them is in that tour. None of them was considered for the tour. I mean, that shows us where we are placed in that team.
Boy, I believe Last week but one, we saw the Deputy President parade or present to the people Senator Kindiki, Honorable Gachagua, who is here in studio, Honorable Alice Wahome, and said that they are now in the same league with Moses Wetangula and Musalia Mudavadi. I don't know why you would question that.
Let me explain, Sam, and allow me, because I like to be factual. Like you said, Kenya has a lot of God-fearing leaders. I am one of them. If you remember when UDA had a lot of friends in central Kenya who had their own political parties. And at one time, they were supporting the DP. And he told them very clearly, if you're to work with me, you have to disband your political parties and join UDA. I am not interested in working with you in a coalition arrangement. That is public knowledge. Because there are people like Chama Chakazi of Moses and others.
That, by the way.
Yes, they were all denied. And they talked about it. They raised these concerns. Mwangi Kiunjuri raised that concern.
Yes.
Moses Kuria raised that concern because they had their own political vehicles. And they were told that you can, if you want to join us, you're free to join us. But this arrangement where we are going to work, you have your party and we have our party and we are kind of working together, no, that doesn't work. And he said he's going it alone all the way. But suddenly,
the Deputy President distanced himself from those statements. And that's what I'm asking. Have you ever heard him say that you have to fold your party?
I have heard all those leaders with political parties, Mwangi Kiunjuri and Moses Kuria, complain that they were not allowed, and they've done it. It's been on media. They said they were not allowed they're not allowed to join with their party.
All right, Honorable
Sam, I think Honorable Mbuyi made, this is a point I wanted to add
quickly, so that we
on the issue of the church, because I don't want it to be lost. And I think Honorable Mbuyi brought about a very important concept in the Bible, which is of the giving is from the heart. It doesn't matter the amount. But there's also a second principle in the Bible around giving, and that is around what the left hand gives, the right hand should not know. And I think these are some of the things that the president was talking about. This idea of saying so-and-so has given 10 million. The reason we are having this entire debate is because what the right hand gives, the left hand knows. In fact, it is pumped up. If you're truly about giving to the church, give humbly and privately. These announcements of big amounts of money, we should not be calculating how much you have given to the church. And I think these are some of the basic concepts that the president wants us to revert to. What the left hand gives, let the right hand not know. What you give from your heart should not necessarily be about the amount. Some, whether we deny it or not. And I have seen from the rally you have shown, because the president spoke so strongly to the central base, and even though Rigathi is saying, oh, there's rebellion, or there's, what have you, they must be, the one thing they are holding on to is the issue of the church, to demonize the president, to raise up the church against the president. Because of those sentiments that the president made, it is a debate that we must have. Because the Bible speaks strongly about these principles. But again, as I said, as Azimio, we know that the church is not just about donations. The church is about how we mainstream our churches into our daily decision making. How we deal with the more fundamental issues affecting the church, including their land issues, including how we recognize their schools, how we recognize their hospitals, how we support some of these church-funded organizations for the betterment of the community. But when you trivialize the church to a donation-based affair, then you're missing the point.
Honorable Gachagua, there are several things that have been said. First, there is the question on the sources of funds. I don't know if you have a response to that. And I don't know whether you want to comment to what he said about the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza movement. And then thirdly, we've had a lot of commentary, especially from Kenya Kwanza, on this issue of the Sagana 3. But you haven't had any person, or maybe we did capture it, going against what the president says about DP Ruto was against the handshake. DP Ruto told me that we have the government to shikilie. We haven't had any response about that.
We don't want to. We have avoided for a long time to respond to the president in his mandate as president and head of state. Unfortunately, he has reduced himself from president to the campaign manager of Raila Odinga. He will be answered in that capacity. And in Nyeri, he was answered point by point. And that is what's going to happen going forward. And it's unfortunate. It was our wish, personally, I as Rigathi Gachagua, having been personal assistant to Uhuru Kenyatta for 7 years, my friends for 20 years, I would have wanted him to retire in dignity, like President Mwai Kibaki. Sadly, he has refused to heed advice. He has decided to bring himself into the mud. The campaign period is a mad one. He'll be mudded. And anything he says, he'll be answered immediately. And he has talked about theft of 3 billion. We are beginning a conversation about of money hidden overseas by his family. We are beginning a conversation about COVID funds. We are beginning a conversation about theft of Mau land. We are beginning about the mafia scandal. We want to look at the NMS, where they are buying cabros owned by his family. It's going to be a long discussion. It would have been unnecessary. We would have wanted the president to retire in peace. You cannot just talk about theft that has gone to the church. We want to know this other theft, where has the money gone to? Let's not just focus on the church. If anybody
Does
thinks,
that then
if anybody just thinks, if anybody thinks that money stolen has gone to the church, there is so much money that has been stolen. The president has taken no action. And the Kikuyus in Nyeri were asking, he is telling us to do what? He's the president. What action has he taken? If 3 billion has been stolen, William Ruto is not above the law. If the president has evidence, although the DPP has said William Ruto has nothing to do with Morel, why is president telling us? So what? The president, people would have expected him in Nyeri, in Sagana, to tell them about escalating food prices. They would have wanted to hear from him. What is he doing about high fertilizer prices?
Honorable Gachagua, when you said that you're also going to speak about the theft of resources from other quarters, does that then sort of confirm what the president...
No, we are saying if the president wants us to have that discussion is very welcome and is very healthy. Let's have that discussion. But let us not have it in isolation. Let's discuss theft from 1963 to today. And that discussion, Sam, is coming. And I'm telling you, the president has left the high pedestal where we put him and come down as a campaign manager. He is going to be dealt with at that level.
So that question about that your side of politics has been very generous up until that time that there's the deadline when those seeking political offices are not supposed to be participating in fundraising. Would you know the source of these resources?
Sam, everybody has his own sources of money. I have my own sources of money. And the church is saying, if the president knows where this money has come from, charge those people. Go to those churches that have received money that is stolen and stop it. Don't just talk. That is politics. You know, the DPP himself, the man charged with the responsibility of prosecuting people, said William Ruto, the deputy president, has nothing to do with this thing. People have already been charged. So when the president comes to Sagana to say 3 billion shillings was stolen, you are president. What have you done about it? We would have wanted him to say so and so was charged with the theft of 3 billion. The case is in court. He's just talking, and that is politics. And it's because he is struggling to explain why he has betrayed William Ruto, because he has no reason. Let me tell you some, and I want to say here on record. The handshake had nothing to do with the people of Kenya. It has everything to do with protecting business and family interests. And we are now getting into that conversation. One by one, we'll explain to the people of Kenya why the president sought Raila Odinga. Because of things that have been done, that are going on, that he needed Raila Odinga not to talk about. Okay. And that conversation now is coming. Let me respond about UDA. You know, UDA is such a strong party that outsiders seem to know much more about it than ourselves. My colleague here would not know what goes in UDA. He's not a member. He doesn't know who is ranking and who is not. It has nothing to do with him. But I can tell you it is a party of discussion. Okay. Because it's such a strong party. I want to tell you, we have a way we work. When the deputy president is away, we have our programs. Wetangula will be in some. Rigathi Gachagua will be in some. Ndindi Nyoro will be in some. And we'll keep it going until he comes back.
Okay. Just on that question, because you haven't given me a specific answer. The salary of the deputy president as per SRC is about 1.48 million shillings. Since he's your friend, would you know how he's able to
the deputy president is a serious farmer. He's a serious businessman. He did not just start business when he became deputy president. Okay? And he has worked hard. And you cannot decide for a man what to do with his money, Sam. If he wants to give to church, if you don't want to give yours to church, it's up to you. Why are these people complaining? And I want to say, you are talking about the wealth of the deputy president. I would like a conversation about the wealth of the president. He's a very wealthy man. The fact that he doesn't give the church, we don't complain. And his salary is also known. You know, let people not try to demonize other people. His father came from prison with nothing. He was a meter reader. 15 years down the line, he owned half of this country. We are not having that discussion. We are going to have that discussion. Let people not bastardize others.
I don't think that's factual, half of this country.
Yeah?
I don't think it's factual.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll say what he owns, because it's on record.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, I want us to take a short break. I mean, those are the views of Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll be talking about the NDCs that happened over the weekend, that is Friday and Saturday. And then what is becoming the Azimio La Umoja coalition. Is it Azimio One Kenya Alliance? We'll talk about that after the break. Stay tuned.